Welcome back to Steve's World of Wonders.
There's the Library and Archives building. Welcome back to Steve's World of Wonders. I'm here in front of the Library and Archives building just across the street here. I'm going to head in there and look at their exhibit on prime ministers and art. Some kind of relation between prime ministers and art. And then I'm going to head across the Ottawa River into Gatineau over the Chaudière Bridge. Check out Chaudière Falls. And then I'm going to look at something across the river in one of the parks that they have over there. This is one of my favorite things in Ottawa. This sculpture here, water feature, right on Wellington Street. So I'm going to head over there, check it out. And you can come with me. Welcome back to Steve's World of Wonders. Heading into the Library and Archives of Canada. Prime Ministers and the Arts. That's what I've come here to look at. There's all kinds of free things to do in Ottawa. Secret Bench of Knowledge, donated by the artist and Eugene Baccia, Toronto, May 1st, 1994. That's the little park that I came from with the water fountain over there. You can see the long wheelchair access there too. So let's head in. In the 21st century, we often see pictures of politicians with celebrities on social media. But the photo op isn't a new phenomenon. Canada's leaders have a history of mingling with the stars. Posing with the right celebrity can shape a prime minister's image. It may add a touch of glamour or show an unexpected side of the PM's personality. These photographs help reveal who the prime ministers are, or at least how they want to be seen. There's Kim Campbell, the first female Prime Minister. Mackenzie King and Shirley Temple. Stephen Baker and Jackson Beasley, artist. There's Trudeau, and there's John Lennon and Yoko Ono. Brian Mulroney. This picture is hilarious. Jean Chrétien and Dan Aykroyd from the Blues Brothers. Canadian Dan Aykroyd playing harmonica. And the funniest picture of Jean Chrétien ever playing the trombone. Bono and Paul Martin. Well, I guess this is where you start. This is a very 1960s building. These are the prime ministers I grew up with, right here. These ones. And there's our current prime minister. There's Mackenzie King.
Wilfrid Laurier helped launch the careers of artists and musicians. Sir John Thompson's sudden death led to the creation of commemorative art. And William Lyon Mackenzie King left a record of his life in his own writing, as well as the books he read. This exhibition explores various aspects of Canada's prime ministers through their relationships with the visual, performing, and literary arts. In official portraits and publications, we view the Prime Minister's own versions of themselves. Unofficial portrayals, such as caricatures, show how others perceive them. Documents that illustrate their interests as private patrons and collectors of art shed light on who they are outside politics. Artist Frederick Marlett Bell Smith believed Thompson's death, Prime Minister Thompson, was worthy of public art on a grand scale. He produced 3 large paintings memorializing the event. These were displayed publicly, and Bell Smith hoped the National Gallery would buy them. The gallery declined. Queen Victoria set the tone in honoring Thompson. She laid a wreath at his casket before sending it home to Canada on Britain's fastest warship, painted black in mourning for the journey. She also wrote Lady Thompson a condolence letter, which is right in this archive exhibit. Bell Smith strove for accuracy in his depictions of the well-known figures who paid tribute to Thompson. He even arranged a sitting with Queen Victoria. As a result of his efforts, we can easily identify who's who in this group portrait. There is a Turkish clothing brand called Paul Martin Canadian. The brand is named after Paul Martin, Canadian Prime Minister. Other than the name, however, there is no connection between Paul Martin and Paul Martin Canadian. Confused? Us too. Canada's prime ministers have had songs and poems written about them. They've appeared as characters in novels, plays, and comic books. Even the world of fashion is not immune to their charms. Here are some of the sometimes surprising works of art the prime ministers have inspired. So this says, the War Room of the Canadian Ministry of Defence, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And here's Pierre Trudeau in the corner. I recognize a weapon, Hudson, the one you codenamed Wolverine. But who the blazes are those others? Captain Canuck or some Canadian hero? They're called the X-Men, Prime Minister. So this actually appeared in an X-Men comic. One of our prime ministers depicted in comic book form. I recognize Weapon X, Hudson, the one you codenamed Wolverine, but who the blazes are those others? Says Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau in an X-Men comic. monsters may not be the most likely subjects for action figures, and yet these are figures of Sir John A. Macdonald and Sir Wilfrid Laurier. And yet these figures exist. The Macdonald figure appears to be based on a photo from Library and Archives Canada's collection. Sir Robert Borden's grandfather was a classical scholar. Borden followed his grandfather's example, studying ancient languages from a young age. He also owned a number of rare Greek and Latin books. This book from his collection was printed in 1725. Like Borden, Pierre Trudeau studied the classics. These books with their brown paper wrappers are some of his high school textbooks. Trudeau had just turned 17 when he completed this translation of a passage of Homer from the Greek. This volume of Alfred Lord Tennyson's poetry is number 955 in the Macdonald auction catalog. It was later owned by John Diefenbaker. Mackenzie King's library also includes at least one book from Macdonald's collection. kinds of things do the prime ministers read? To answer that question, we look to their book collections. This bookcase contains selected titles from Mackenzie King's library. Displayed around it are books related to other prime ministers. Interestingly, we can spot some common threads in their reading habits. So these are some of the book titles on the shelf that were owned by Mackenzie King, William Lyon Mackenzie King, Prime Minister of Canada in the 40s. Left to right. This is my story. Augustus, Canada, the foundations of its future. That dog of yours. Industry and humanity, a study in the principle underlying industrial reconstruction. Mackenzie King of Canada, he owned a book about himself. Selected poems, the Holy Bible, the poems of Wilfred Campbell. In Memoriam, The Secret Heroism, a memoir of Henry Albert Harper. Horizons of Immortality, a quest for reality. Wow, that's a good one. And When Your Animal Dies. Mackenzie King was really attached to his dog. Library and Archives Canada's collection includes a large number of works of art that Mackenzie King purchased to decorate his personal rooms. He generally favored styles from earlier eras. This example is painted in a style that was popular during the early 18th century. Like most of us, the prime ministers have favorite things. Books they've read 7 times, music they find uplifting, paintings they admire. Some prime ministers have built collections that reflect their cultural interests. Perhaps the most prolific collector was William Lyon Mackenzie King. Over the course of his life, King built a large personal library. He also collected art. By exploring these collections, we can move beyond King's public persona to discover who he was in his private life. King was a dedicated life writer. For many years, he wrote in his journal almost daily. He also kept records such as this book of thoughts. From it, we learn much about his artistic tastes. A few highlights. Favorite poets included Alfred Lord Tennyson, Matthew Arnold, and William Shakespeare. Favorite novelists: William Makepeace, Thackeray, Sir Walter Scott, and George Eliot. His favorite composers included Ludwig van Beethoven and Richard Wagner. Favorite painters and sculptors: Raphael, Michelangelo, Tintoretto, Andrea del Sarto, and other Ninja Turtles. Here are some architectural photographs that were taken by Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau. And here's some poetry by Prime Minister William Lyon Mackenzie King. It's cool to see the process of writing there with crossed out words and changes that he made to his poems. Nice to see the handwriting too. It shows the personal side of prime ministers. And here's an example of some journalistic writings by Joe Clark. This Bible was given to Charles Hibbert Tupper by his parents. His father, Sir Charles Tupper, was Prime Minister of Canada in 1896. Sir Charles Hibbert Tupper, a physician, a Canadian diplomat, and a successful politician in his own right, served as a member of the Canadian Parliament from 1882 to 1904. The Tupper family owned this Bible for nearly a century. Its biographical entries are what make this book special. There are many portraits, official and unofficial, of Canada's prime ministers. Among them are a number of works by important and well-known artists. Some of these images have become iconic. This wall showcases a few of the most notable portraits from the Library and Archive Canada collection. Sarah Jersovitz pokes fun at Canadian content rules with this silkscreen print. She uses the prime ministers as symbols of Canada, turning a Greek sculpture Canadian with Sir John A. Macdonald's face and a rose to represent the year Trudeau. Chalapian was a prolific cover artist for Time magazine. Over the course of his career with Time, he painted hundreds of notable people. Chalapian's portrait of William Lyon Mackenzie King appeared on the magazine's cover in 1946. Noted painter and filmmaker Alma Duncan took on commercial work throughout her career. Her caricatures of John Diefenbaker appeared in the Montreal Standard. Diefenbaker enjoyed Duncan's drawings of him. He even sent her a fan letter. John Wilson Bengough was one of Canada's first prominent political cartoonists. His favorite subject, or chief victim, was Sir John A. Macdonald. Bengough described Macdonald as a bonanza whose unique features made him easy to draw. Group of 7-member artist Arthur Lismer was a renowned painter Lismer also drew cartoons, mostly to amuse himself and his friends. Here, Lismer satirically depicts the 1935 radio broadcasts in which R.B. Bennett offered Canadians a new deal. In 1936, Yusef Karsh met William Lyon Mackenzie King. King became a patron of Karsh's work, and Karsh's reputation grew. A master portrait artist whose work is known worldwide, Karsh photographed 8 Canadian prime ministers over the course of his career. Caricaturists tend to exaggerate one trait on a subject. In R.B. Bennett's case, most focus on his pince-nez glasses. Robert Lapalme's minimalist portrait of Bennett is caricature taken to extremes. For Lapalme, the glasses are the man. Marc Aurèle de Foix-Suzor-Côté is often linked to his patron Sir Wilfrid Laurier. He also created this chalk drawing of another Prime Minister, Sir Robert Borden. The solemn portrait shows Borden around the time of the 1919 Paris Peace Conference. Photographer Andrew Jansen decided to give his subjects control. He left Canadian politicians alone with his camera to take their own unofficial portraits. Jean Chrétien tried several poses in his self-led photo shoot. Here, he performs a Boy Scout salute. E. Pauline Johnson, Tekahion Waki. I don't know how to pronounce that. I apologize if I got that completely wrong, which I most certainly did. Sir Wilfrid and Lady Laurier were both supportive Mohawk Haudenosaunee. Poet and performer E. Pauline Johnson. Laurier's archives include letters from Johnson, also known as Tekahion Waki, in which she thanks the couple for their encouragement and guidance. Johnson's tone in the letters is respectful and warm. This miniature portrait of Thompson was produced after his death. The Governor-General, Lord Aberdeen, and his wife presented it to Thompson's wife, Annie, as a personal keepsake. The portrait is encased in a locket alongside a lock of hair. Artists have found inspiration in the Prime Minister's lives, their ideas, and their actions. In one notable case, a Prime Minister's sudden death ignited the creative spark. Sir John Thompson went to England in 1894 to meet with Queen Victoria. He died at Windsor Castle shortly after the meeting, prompting a national outpouring of grief. Canadians felt the need to commemorate their lost leader in art. They did so on both a grand public scale and a smaller private one. Chapter in Canadian history. Discovery of the Western Hemisphere. This plaque commemorates the discovery of the eastern coast of Canada by mariners from Iceland and Greenland in the late 10th century. The historic excerpt reproduced below is from Grenlandinga Saga, the saga of the Greenlanders, first committed to writing in Iceland about AD 1200, and is preserved in the Flateyjarbók, the Flatty Book, or Flatey Book, a vellum manuscript compiled in Iceland about 1390 AD. Part 1 records the sighting of new land in the west by Bjarni Herjolfsson of Eyrar in Iceland in AD 986. Part 2 describes the voyage of discovery of Leif Erikson some years later and his landings in the Helluland, Flatstone Land, Markland, Woodland, and Vinland, Wineland. These explorations led to an attempt at colonization by Thorfinnur Karlsefni, whose son Snorri Thorfinnsson was born on this continent. Archaeological research in western Greenland and eastern Canada supports these ancient Icelandic records of exploration and colonization. Bjarni Herjolfsson sights new land. After that, they saw the sun again and were able to get their bearings. They hoisted sail, and after a day's sailing, they sighted land. They discussed amongst themselves what country this might be. Bjarni said he thought it could not be Greenland. The crew asked him if he wanted to land there or not. Bjarni replied, "I think we should sail in close." They did so, and soon they could see that the country was not mountainous, but was wooded with low hills. So they put to sea again, leaving the land on the port quarter. Leif Erikson's explorations. They made their ship ready and put out to sea. The first landfall they made on the country that Bjarni had sighted last. They sailed right up to the shore, made anchor, and lowered a boat and landed. There was no grass to be seen, and the hinterland covered with great glaciers, and between the glaciers and shore, the land was like one great something of rock. It seemed to them a worthless country. Then Leif said, "Now we have done better than Bjarni, where this country is concerned. At least we have set foot on it. I shall give this country a name and call it Helluland." They returned to their ship and put to sea and sighted a second land once again, sailed right up to it and cast anchor, lowered a boat and went ashore. The country was flat and wooded with white, sandy beaches wherever they went, and the land sloping down to the sea. Leif said, "This country shall be named after its natural resources, shall be called Markland." They hurried back to their ship as quietly as possible and sailed away to sea. They sighted land again and sailed towards it and went inland, which lay to the north of it. They went ashore and looked about them. The weather was fine. The first thing they did was to get some of it on their hands, the dew.
Alright, so there's the fountain, there's the archives that I was just in, and I'm headed this way to find the pathway to the Chaudière Bridge across the Ottawa River.